The following program has been rated GE by the Kenya Film Classification Board. It is therefore suitable for general family viewing.
Hello viewer, welcome to Chungu Cha Jamii. My name is Betty. I am your host today, and I have lovely guests. I have a lady and a gentleman who are going to be taking us through a topic that is in session this month. If you know, in September is Child Cancer Awareness Month, and we want to talk about that because basically people think it's just the old or people who have some kind of issues that are affected by cancer. So today we are here to learn about cancer in children, how we can know and what we can do about it. I would like to introduce my guests, to let them introduce themselves to you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Ngini Nasongo, a counseling psychologist from Fariji. Thank you.
My name is Kiari Mongi, team lead at Fariji, and where we use sports to engage the community, and as you see, across all gender and age.
All right. Good to have you guys.
Thank you.
Fariji, I wonder what happens at Fariji, but you mentioned sports. We are yet to know how sports and Fariji are going to come in, talking about cancer today. So when you talk about cancer, usually, nowadays in this society, people are so reluctant and negligent about so many things that you tell someone about cancer and they're like, it's a death sentence. And some people even say, I would rather suffer from HIV and AIDS because then I have medicine. I can still survive like for 20 or so years just taking ARVs or anything else. But cancer like just sends you to the grave. Especially when you hear about cancer, you want to hear what stage. So when you hear about cancer, you quickly want to put down a will if you are capacitated to do so. You want to give up, you want to drop everything else. And now for children who are school going, for children who are little, what exactly causes this cancer in children? Are children born with cancer? How do they get to catch cancer? Now that you're talking about awareness.
Wow, it's a tough question. And even when you mention that, my worries just go back to some hospital that I normally go to see kids suffering from cancer. I've done that quite a bit in Eldoret, MTRH, and Kenyatta here. Anyway, coming back to your question, there is no specific cause for cancer, regardless, However, in children, they talk about biological factors. For example, a child, maybe there was a relative in the family, that had cancer. So that predisposes them. They also talk about environmental factors. For example, maybe chemicals in the environment in which they stay, the pesticides, some of these could be sprayed on vegetables, fruits, things that we ingest. However, there could also be a combination of both. But there is no specific cause that is known even to the scientists. Research is also still ongoing. So when a child has been diagnosed with cancer, and there are several cancers, several cancers, it is never easy for the family. It's never easy for the family. I think I've answered your question.
Yes, I guess it just puts everything to a stall. When a family member is unwell and they manage to get to hospital and return home with such a diagnosis, life cannot go on as usual. It cannot be business as usual. Everyone takes some kind of a break naturally, because of that news, So you have mentioned that you get to go to MTRH, you go to Kenyatta. What takes you?
Honestly, I'm very passionate about that. And why is because, one, there is so much talk and hype about all the other cancers that involve adults. Like we are aware about the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is just coming soon. And people kind of forget the children. Yeah, there is so much I don't know if it's forgetting or, I don't know. But I asked myself, why can't I also pay attention to these children? Yeah. So that is how I developed an interest. But I'll explain this later as we move on. But I'm very, very, very passionate about that. And my interest also came about because I work a lot with the children. Like I said, I'm a counselor, a psychologist. I work with the children and adolescents. So there are so many other challenges that come along with that. And one particular reason why I actually got into a support for children is because a mother came to me and said they had been told their child had cancer. But now they didn't know how to break this news to this child. And the kid was asking, Mom, why am I going through this? What is happening to me? And they didn't know what to tell the child. This child was about 8 years. That's a person who can almost understand what's happening. So it was taken through chemotherapy. The hair fell off. And the kid was asking, what's happening to me? What's going on? The mother didn't know. The doctors had not told the child. And you can imagine how difficult it was also for me to break the news. And I said, I think there is a disconnect somewhere. There is something missing. There is a missing link. I developed that interest in that way. So yes, I supported this mother with the child along the way. And unfortunately it died, but we had made her know that she had an illness that didn't have a cure and that it was okay because it was even difficult to explain to her that there was no cure. She was asking, why me? Why just me in my entire class? It's only me who is not going to school. It's only me in the family who is having this. Why me? It wasn't easy.
Oh yes, it can truly be difficult. I imagine if even a mother cannot explain and an 8-year-old already can tell that, cancer is a very serious thing, that if you have it, then it's like a death sentence, And you have said that it's not particular what exactly causes cancer. And you cannot just say that cancer will not catch me, But now when you really don't know, if you know what causes something, you're able to run away from it, Are there things like you have had, even in your experience, when you're dealing with patients, that people say, these are the risk factors, you had mentioned the environmental, you mentioned biological, which you cannot run away from. But talking about the environmental, there are certain times you have been in places and people say, because of this kind of environment, because of the foods you guys eat, then you're definitely going to catch cancer someday. Parents have become so cautious. And also, we have also upgraded, we try to now copy the West a lot in terms of how they eat and live. And our environment is also not so clean. There's so much pollution, even chemically. And we have to inhale and take in all this. There's also our population that is growing so fast. And so our farmers and the kind of space that we have are not able to sustain us, even with the food. So we have to fast track everything. If it is growing our chicken, we have to inject them and make sure they balloon quickly. If it is our veggies, we've got to spray with all the chemicals just to fast track life, because we are really under pressure of the growing population, which must be taken care of. Farmers are under pressure. They also want to export, they also want to feed the locals. So how can what are some of those risk factors that you could point out and say, this is a no-go zone, this one you don't have to try? I know there are lots of myths where people say, don't warm your food in the microwave, don't eat food from the freezer, don't do all these things. There's so many don'ts when it comes to cancer.
Honestly, when you talk about risk factors, especially I want to focus around children, I've talked about environmental factors and biological factors. But then we are not saying that if you have somebody in the family, for example, who had a certain cancer, then you definitely get cancer. We have seen families where people have actually been exposed to all those things you're mentioning. They do pizza almost every week. They're obese. All those things, they eat fatty foods, they do a lot of sugar, but nobody gets cancer. But we've also had cases where there isn't any history of cancer anywhere. but somewhere along the way, you find somebody with a cancer.
People who eat also very healthy.
By the way, they are very keen on what they eat. How many calories, how much sugar, they literally weigh everything they eat. But then somebody gets cancer. So I will normally say it's just bad luck. And what we need to know is that each one of us has a cancer cell somewhere in the body. We all have. We just need something to trigger it. But you never know what it is. I've had so many cases of people who are saying, I'm a health freak. I do those green fresh vegetables. Those ones you don't even cook. You wash and eat broccoli. They don't even steam. Cool raw. Everything. 8 glasses of water. Running every morning, every evening, exercise. And then someone has cancer. You're like, really? What happened? And that's why I call it bad luck. But then we are not saying don't take care of yourself, because you never know where it could happen, isn't it? So if there are children, nowadays our children just sit in the house. Corona has not made the situation any better. A kid wakes up and sits on the couch, and then they're either on their phone or watching TV. No exercises at all. Our bodies, just like our vehicles, need some servicing and stuff like that. How do we service our bodies? By taking enough water, a lot of water, they say at least 8 glasses, walking around, exercising every muscle of the body, because when you are sitting there, certain things don't work well. But our kids don't have that time, okay? So they come and sit. The only thing they will do is eat now fries there, or whatever it is they're eating. Then from there, they go to sleep. What exercise have they done? So yes, there is a way we are also contributing to this, predisposing these children in one way or the other. But again, as I said, it's not obvious that because of this will happen.
Because people who live and eat healthy end up becoming victims.
Yeah.
I would like to know from you, Kiari, where do you come in talking about cancer?
Okay, thanks, Betty. And much more for Guinea. Now, sports, and basically, let's just talk to children, because today we're focusing about children. Children, by nature, they are hyper, they are energetic, they are driven. And the lifestyle about the PS2 she has spoken about, the lifestyle about lazing at home, the lifestyle about even the kind of homework and kind of mental energy, that also drives children to also like get their sugars down. Sports has been known worldwide as one area where a physical activity that mitigates and prevents NCD. When you talk about cancer, cancer is just one of the 4 main non-communicable diseases. The others being diabetes, cardiovascular, and chronic respiratory diseases. So how do we mitigate and prevent? One of the easiest and most scientifically proven is physical exercises. And as what Ngini has said, just walking, for example. I know nowadays our school children, they all have school buses. From the gate to the school gate and back. And I know if it is weekend, nowadays they get into a car, into a moving vehicle, they're taken all over. So we advocate for one, through the parents, because then now here's where we involve the parents, to be physically active, so that the children can also see from the parents that, so I need to be doing this to keep my body energetic. Number 2, through themselves, through the children, because at their age, at 6 years, 10 years, 12 years, they are also predisposed to just high energy, high adrenaline. So the opportunities we also try to give and drive about them being physically active. Now, that's part of Fariji and how we sync with what Ngini does from the counseling end of it.
That's a good one. Ngini, when you meet with the children, what exactly are your areas of interest? Because you have gone to see the children who are cancer victims. They have parents who are going through difficult times. What exactly is your role directly to the child and to the parent?
Emotional support. I want to give them emotional support and just get to know also what the mothers, actually the caregivers, go through. I just wish we also had a chance to talk about the caregivers here, because many times we forget this caregiver. You understand? Who is taking care of this child? By the way, the kid may not even know what is going on, but the mother whoever the caregiver is, they actually bear the entire brunt of what is going on. So yes, I want to give them emotional support. I talk to them, and in some small way, when I can, I go to Isli, I buy this dira, you understand, and give to these mothers, because when this mother came to hospital, she thought she was just going there today and then go back home. But now she's been there 3 months, 4 months. She doesn't have an extra dress to wear. Understand? The little she had, she cannot buy something extra. It's usually not a very good experience. So yes, I talk to the mother, I support them and help them look at this case from a different perspective. Yes, it's an illness. We are not so sure if this kid will come out of the here alive. We start preparing her that there is a possibility that you might leave this place without your child. There is also a possibility that you will live with them, but you'll keep on supporting them from home. And we also let them know that there's what they call remission. The kid will look like they're fine, and they can be fine for a very long time, by the way. When I say long, it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, others 10 or so, several other years, and then maybe it can recur. So we prepare that mother, and we make them feel like you're not alone in this. Because there are many, in that ward. So when they allow me to talk, but COVID has been there, so I haven't had a chance to talk to them again, because they are like, keep your distance, because the immunity of these children is low or down. So when I get that chance, I talk to them in a group, and then there are those who will come to me individually and say, look, I am here with my child, but I have 3 other kids at home. I wonder how they are. This lady is mentally disturbed, emotionally destroyed. Mm-hmm. So she's there, but her mind is kind of torn. There are others who even now go and leave this child alone, because she's like, I can't, this is too much for me. Mm-hmm. This is too much. So anyway, in short, emotional support. So when I say emotional, it's quite a bit we talk about, because they'll be asking those questions. Why me? Why my child? What happened? Has somebody bewitched us? Because there's also that element of, and trying to psychoeducate them, like, this is what it means. This is, we sometimes, even when the doctors come, we want to know the prognosis, although we also don't tell them directly this is how it's going to end. But, making them live a fairly peaceful life while they're supporting their child.
I guess how difficult that can be, especially to the caregiver, because the child may be innocent. The child may think this is just, a short-term illness, and that will be out of here, especially depending on their age. But mostly the children that you see, what is their age like?
The youngest I saw was about 3 years, or I've seen is about 3 years. And the oldest, he was just about to turn 17. Yeah, so that age, that's the age that I see.
Has there been successful stories?
Oh yes, there are many success stories, and this happens because unfortunately, again with cancer, in the initial stages, you may miss the symptoms. And when they get the symptoms in good enough time and come to hospital, they get treatment early enough, and the prognosis is almost always better. So success to me, I don't know what you mean, but success is if they're able to live 5 years, 15 years later, and still be alive. So we've had such cases, yes. Yes, they are there.
Yeah. So if someone leaves the hospital, if someone is diagnosed, at say year 8 or 10, and then it's done early enough, and so they're able to survive for 10, 15 years.
Yes.
Does that mean that you give them just that and then they will be gone? Because if they are 10 and the surety you're giving is 15 years, then this person does not have a future or an adult life. They cannot talk about marriage. They cannot talk about work. They cannot talk about career. They cannot talk about those many things. This 10, 15 years is just for survival.
Actually, it's not the doctor who determines that. It is we all have different bodies. Yeah, we could be having, by the way, there are so many types of cancers. For example, let's talk about leukemia. Leukemia is the cancer of the blood.
Yes.
Yeah, and there are different types. We have acute and we have chronic. So if it's acute, this spreads very fast in the body, and this person may not live very long. Very long again may. Normally when you go to hospital, they'll give you like let's give her 6 months, 3 years. So the person is likely to die within that period. But leukemia again has, by the way, I'm not a medical doctor. Eh? This is just based on the interaction I've had with my clients.
Yeah.
So the doctor will say, this kid can live for another 3-4 months. I want to be very specific about a girl I saw, and she was about 5 or 3 years. I used to play with her a lot at that hospital. So I play with them again. I let them draw because those things are in the hospital. They draw and I'm able to pick 1, 2, 3, 4 things and, you know, support them based on that. So this kid, the doctors are very busy trying to help her. We say trying because we can't be very sure. So, and the mother becomes very good friends with me. I occasionally come, I buy them fruits, we know we are playing with this girl, let's call her Angel. So mama says, take photos. I love photos. I hope someone is taking photos of me here. So I love photos. So I've always had a camera with me and my phone. So I take photos of Angel and her mother and the other kids, you know. Then the mother says, please print for me because after this, we'll take to the other siblings to see. And I'm like, good. I take photos, I go. I'll bring them tomorrow, yes, at my cost. So I'm going straight to Angel's bed. Then I hear somebody saying, hey, we are Angel alikufa. Of course, it's not me they are talking to. I mean, I know I'm going to Angel's bed. Then when I reach the Angel's bed, I don't even find the mother. I'm seeing a different patient. So I'm like, what happened? Angel alikufa jana. Just immediately you left. Now leukemia interferes with the red blood cells that circulate oxygen in the body. Now, when there is an overproduction of the white cells, which deal with the infections, they interfere with the normal functioning of the other cells, the red cells and the platelets. Okay, so you can be breathing in and you coma like that, you zima like that. So I think that is what happened to my little friend Angel. And several others, you know. So the doctors could have said 3 months, 2 months, but you see now, this is what will happen. So you can't be very sure. And again, our bodies are different. So it is not the doctors who will determine. But for the other cancers, normally they talk about 5 years. Let's give them 5 years and see how they are going to, you know. But again, it can be 5 years, but you die within the first year. Because there are those that are very aggressive. The cancers are very aggressive. And there are those that are a little slow.
You mentioned emotional intelligence. And I am thinking about the caregivers of this particular menace. And mothers can probably be the most beaten in this battle. What kind of support group is there for such ones? You know, it's very important to be in a support group where you know for sure we are making it. You know, none of us is gonna quit. We are here to help each other. We are encouraging each other and stuff like that. But there's that group where, you know, someone like now Angel has gone and the mother leaves. You know, she just left the group because she doesn't need it anymore. I mean, this is done. So what happens? What kind of support group is there, if any, for such?
I can jump in and say 15th of February is International Childhood Cancer Day. And this year, we were fortunate to have a group at KWS. We say nature is therapeutic. Nature. Just to walk into nature. And we had a group of child cancer survivors, about 15 with their caregivers. And we had the safari walk and we did the orphanage. One of the key things that came out was one, as Guinea has said, the caregivers, even them coming together through that occasion, we actually realized they were actually a group by themselves. That they also talk, oh, you are so-and-so, I'm so-and-so, oh, your child, my child, your guardian, my guardian. So we had a good opportunity of bringing them together. Number 2, the child cancer survivors. One of the key elements as Fariji, what we did is to have what is called an art therapy. Art is therapeutic. Just drawing, sketching. We saw a lion. So one of the feedback session was, I also tell that to my friends. so that they can come on scene. So we realized just by bringing them together, we also opened up an opportunity for their internal networking. Two sets. One, the caregivers. Two, the cancer survivors. Number three, we are working on a partnership, Fariji, with KWS and Kenya Cancer Organization, KENCO. We are calling it a Therapeutic Safari. A Therapeutic Safari will be park-based visits. We go to different parks, different sanctuaries, different reserves. And the idea is what you're talking about, having a meeting of minds, having conversations with the caregivers, having a conversations with the cancer survivors, and infusing the community around, such that the child cancer survivors, they also feel, so it's normal and we can live normal lives. Their testimonies, as Ngini has mentioned, about success stories, and there are many. Number two, one of the key elements that comes out in these conversations is the caregiver story. The truth of the matter is, the caregiver is actually more often than not forgotten, even at funeral planning. For all the guardians, for all the nurses, for all the people who stepped through as caregivers, when the eulogies are being read, the one line that misses down there, we talk about the bereaved, the family, his work or her work, and the children, what they were, the class, but rarely do we mention
The
Caregiver.
the caregivers. Rarely. They're never mentioned. Especially worse when it is an auntie or a relative. Mothers are said to be natural caregivers,
Yes.
just by default settings,
Yes.
so to speak. So what do we do at Fariji? One, we are working on those kind of partnership and stakeholder engagement, where now we shall be having these childhood cancer engagements through the therapeutic safaris, through art therapies, and engaging through the platform of nature and KWS.
What number are we talking about in the society when you talk about the support group? There's how many children would you say are cancer victims? That people are aware of, because people just know. Those days it used to be for some old people, then it came to be some people who live carelessly. Now it is anyone, and now it is here, children. So what number are we talking about?
In Kenyan statistics, it shows we have 3,000 childhood cancer cases annually.
3,000
3,000
annually.
And out of which 30% survive in low and middle income countries, Kenya, continent, as compared to 80% in the developed world, in Europe. Some of the reasons are what Ngini has mentioned: late diagnosis, advocacy campaign, follow-up on medication, and all. Mostly along childhood cancer, because as you have rightly pointed out, these are diseases that have for the longest time been associated with a certain age, and more so a certain class.
Yeah, true.
As the class bit especially, and it may sound funny, but people have always been saying that guys who live in the middle class, middle and upper,
for the well-to-do,
they're the most susceptible. People who live in low income areas, the ghettos and all, they're the safe zones, so to speak. So these are the kind of conversations, and these are the kind of conversations we're trying to demystify.
I'm interested in knowing why the variation of the percentage 80 and 30. Of course, it's really makes a lot of sense, being that this is or that is a more developed country, but a disease is a disease. If we have doctors, if we have medication, then we really need to do this. I know people leave Kenya to go to other places to seek medication for the same, but is there any other reason other than financial and capability that would make us to be at that percentage? Because nobody just wants to die if this can be solved.
For children, and again, and you cannot belabor this enough. it is awareness and advocacy. This month, for example, we have driven this conversation the last 2 weeks just to sensitize Kenyans that September is a childhood cancer awareness month.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter is, you talk to Kenyans, they know cancer and October and breast cancer. A lot of, when you mention cancer in Kenya, for example, the first thing that comes to your mind is
Breast cancer.
Breast cancer. And which month?
October.
Media driven. More so. So the first point of call is to advocacy and awareness. We make 15th of February, it is International Childhood Cancer Day. It is rarely commemorated in Kenya. 4th of February, it's World Cancer Day, which occasionally we see Kenyans through the ministry engage. So just by having this engagement today, just by having this conversation today, we are driving challenge to the government, to stakeholders about childhood cancer as a topic and an engagement. Number 2, we've mentioned about, especially in low and middle income countries like Kenya, when you talk about diseases, especially terminal, because it has always been an age set, it is very difficult to correlate that conversation to children and adolescents. Just the same way nowadays, we are having conversations about diabetes in children, obesity in children, and adolescents, where previously those are conversations which were of a certain age, 60 years old.
Yeah.
You know.
True.
Yeah.
I'm so interested in knowing what precisely should I look up to as a parent, you know, if I have any suspicions, you know, what exactly as a mother should my eyes be open to when when I'm taking
You're
care
talking about the
of
symptoms?
my child.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I want us to talk about after the break.
Okay.
Because talking about awareness, everyone else will say, how was I supposed to know? Or they will say, I didn't know. Because as you know, in Kenya, the reason why, or even globally, people don't survive is because it was such a late diagnosis. When I arrived, I was told it was stage 4. I felt nothing. There are those things that people just feel and they ignore. So, especially in children, you don't even bother. You just like, she just fell down. That pain is, So we will be taking a short break talking about child cancer awareness, especially this month of September. I hope that you join us and follow up this conversation. You could just learn something that you were not aware of. Coming back shortly.
Everywhere GBS.
Welcome back. We were talking about Child Cancer Awareness Month. Gini, when you are a parent taking care of your children normally, there's so many symptoms that happen to children that parents just ignore. And you often just say it's just a cold, below 5, the immunity of children is too low, and so after 5, they will overcome. And a lot of things, we just lay aside and say, they're growing up, they're growing up. Is there anything that you need to look up to that should, trigger your normal sense a little bit higher to take it to the next level? Because also as a mother, there are those things that a baby is coughing, you are there to the pediatrician, you're there with Zinat and, just a cough. So your baby should never sneeze. So people rate you as a certain kind of mom because for a cough, you are there in hospital, you have gone to a pediatrician, not just a CEO. Just for a flu, you are there running. For a rash, you're there running. And so you also want to grow up, For your firstborn, you're probably allowed to be that kind of a mom. But not for a second one and a third one, you're like, let them eat soil and let them eat whatever, they will be fine. Yeah, you'll just be fine. So you try to self-medicate. What is it that the parents are losing out on? Should we go back to that era of no rash, no cough, no sneeze?
That's very interesting. As you talk, I was looking at your face and I noted that you don't have a pimple, You don't have a pimple. And
That can be true.
And if there was any, you would notice, right?
Yeah.
You would. Why would that be the reason? Why would you notice? If there was any change on your face?
Because I feel it. I want to...
Yeah, because you're often looking at yourself on the mirror, you know, to see. Are there any changes on my face? So you really are very familiar with your face. So that if there's any change, you're able to tell, is this lipstick in good shape? I mean, how do I change it? So you are familiar with that. Now, as a parent, you have this child. How well do you know your child? So that when there are any changes, you're able to pick them. Many times we ignore, even with our own selves. In fact, when we talk about other cancers in adults, we miss them out because we don't seem to know how our bodies are. So that when there is a lump, for example, in a woman, you don't even see it, you don't even feel it. Much, much later probably is when you'll feel it. And if you are lucky enough to have a partner who probably touches you here and there, you know, they might stumble on it. So what am I saying? It is important for you as a parent to know the behavior of your child so that when there is any change, you'll be able to tell, how come my son is not playing today? And by the way, all of them play up to a given age. They become very, very playful. Age 3 up to 6, that is when everything happens. Age 9, 10, they are very, very active. Now, this kid has always been active, but suddenly, you know, it's like they don't want to play. They're always tired. Ask them what is happening. Do you have any pain? Many times you miss out on this because there is no pain. Okay? Maybe this kid suddenly starts bleeding, nose bleeding, you know. What is happening? And you're not going to wait for today and tomorrow. And, you know, please go and seek support. Maybe you start noticing that the stomach now is swelling. If they have leukemia, some of these things are likely to happen. Now, probably it's the spleen that is swelling or it's the liver. Can you check? Suddenly, small cuts, the kid is bleeding, it's like they'll never stop. What is happening? Often they'll start having regular infections. Homa mara hii mara, you know, they're telling you, I can't see, mom, my eyes are itching. There is something not going right. Unfortunately for us, I'm saying us as in Africans and not every class because we also have category. You know, there's that social stratification. So when there is a cough, because they might also start coughing, you send Kiare, go to the kiosk and bring me cough. I don't know what medicine nowadays people use. If it's a lump somewhere, you go and ask Mama, Betty, my son has this, no Vicks. So Vicks you rub. Next time you're using Rob. But something is happening in the system of this child. Anyway, we are saying, when you notice something abnormal around your child, please take them to hospital. Unfortunately, again, even when we take them to hospital in good enough time, what we would call good enough time, there is what we also call misdiagnosis. Yeah. The doctors will tell you, now you are being too sensitive, you know, just let, this kid is just growing, that is part of it.
There's that misdiagnosis.
Yes.
But you know, you guys could be too young.
Yeah.
But in the days when I was growing up, you know, there was...
Did you hear?
I don't know if that happened to you, but there were so many ways to medicate, even back in the village.
Yes.
And those things just worked.
Yes.
Now, something has come called medical insurance.
Yes.
And something has come also called medical checkups.
Yes.
Now, in our upbringing, these were not necessities. These were things for a certain kind of class.
Social class.
Yes, you had to belong to a certain caliber to be the one who schedules medical checkups. You know, like if I asked you guys, you not tell me that yesterday you were on a dental checkup or you went to an ophthalmologist to check your eyes. I don't think you do those things regularly as scheduled. Probably your cars, you know, this is due for service because you can see the mileage it has covered. But you don't do that to your body. And if you do, you probably does what Kiaria says, that you know, you walk, you exercise, but do you really check your organs? Like, my lungs have served me this many years. Even in the exercise, they haven't failed me. Could they be having a puncture, you know, a deformity somewhere that I need to fix? You know, we don't think like that unless it is not our money. If I am employed and my employer is going to take care of that, then I will present myself. But if I have to chuck like 100 Gs to go for medical checkup and I'm feeling nothing, who wants to do that?
Before even Kerry talks, victims of this mainly are men. Men don't go for checkup even if they had a headache. They will not even talk about it. Or if they do, in fact, now when it is severe, he'll go to hospital and he'll be talking to the doctor like he's talking about another person. By the way, mtu akiwa na kichwa,
I'm asking for a friend.
yes, like asking for a friend.
My neighbor has, yes.
Yes. So, one, as Africans, I'll leave you also to respond to this. I think we've got, and now you talk about different social classes. Some of us have so many other issues to attend to. Yeah.
And that is just to be a priority.
That is not, yeah. Now going to hospital for checkup, honestly.
A liability.
I mean, how? That's a luxury, you know? So when a kid says, you just sit there, you know, you'll get well. You don't start telling them to go to hospital. And probably that is where it all starts. Okay. So our priorities, I think, are also very different. Our priorities are different. I want to
should we start saving to just pay for medical insurance and go for medical checkups? Do you think this is a way we are able to curb this?
Well, even before you get to the Medicare, because remember also Medicare, people are saying it has also been monetized, you know, like
abused,
and abused as well. We go back to when you're old, because you are obviously much older than both of us. So we go to.
Thank you for reckoning.
We go to the days when we said a child was raised by the village. That meant that child, the village knew the child. The village knew when the child has behavioral change in behavioral change. The village, not so we're not limiting it to nuclear.
No.
So that really helped. That is why we used to hear back then in the village. Nole msichana wanani, lakini siku hizi achezi kama.
That was our time, yes. Village parenting, it was our time.
So during your time back then, we used to have that. Now, number 2, there's something which Ngini has brought up. See, these young girls of nowadays, she has brought up something about men. And people say boys to men, and boys grow to become men. And boys also grow knowing that hospitals and Medicare is for softies, is for girls, is for my sister. These are latter day, these are now the Ngini in her generation. So, men in hospitals is actually a bigger problem than even before you get to the Medicare itself. And I'm not even started to talk about what Ngini has said, that we, and here I'm going to whisper, perhaps people don't hear me more. When I go to the hospital...
Yeah, you can whisper on the microphone.
Yeah, on the microphone. Yes. When we go to the hospital, as men, representing my friends, when you go to the hospital, we tend to tell the doctor. We tend to tell the doctor what to give us and how to treat us. It's very easy. Daktari, mimi nimekuja na kichwa na nyuma, hebu nipatie ile dawa, ili nipatie na panadol 5 na hii. So basically, you are just not self-medicating. It is the environment of the medical that makes you feel comfort that umeenda hospitali. But in all more ways than one, wewe ndio umejitibu. Because you're actually telling the doctor what you feel and what you want. Now, to medical and to Medicare now. The government was the largest single employer for the longest time. 80% of Kenyans were employed by the government for the longest time. So insurance, those things were part of government structure. Job group this, job group this. That is all that depended. When a lot of the private sector, when now the jobs in the private sector came in, suddenly the one component that dropped off was Medicare. Because the rent remains, your check off. Medicare is the one that dropped off the list. Okay? So what happened is that, and there is an agenda issue again. More women, because women generally, they talk about health, they talk about their children, they talk about this, they are also easier to get cross-reference. Men, on the other hand, because they believe Medicare is not top priority.
It's for softies.
It's for softies. So even the growing boys, and this you have seen when you're doing sports, a boy ameumia mguu na for sure ameumia, but because hataki mama yake ajue, akitaka antuma dada yake nilete chakula, ndio mama yake asione him limping. After all, he's a boy growing to a man, and such a small thing which aligongwa cannot let my mom start to majimoto massage na nini. So those are the kind of conversations we also need to start developing. Last but not least is what we try to call knowing your body constantly. The truth of the matter is, men by nature, we want to feel that we have gone to the hospital when we say that we really must go to the hospital. And they use the word must respectfully. Men feel I need to go to the hospital when I must go to the hospital. Women feel the need to go to the hospital when they feel something. For men, it's a must. A must means you are driven. That's why
you're pushed to the wall.
You're pushed. But that big pushed, when you talk to cancer, that pushed is called stage 4. That's what the push means. Women, on the other hand, they feel the need to consult, talk to the hospital. And that is why people say when you go around the chemists, most of their bigger clientele are more women than men.
Obviously, because we are medicating ourselves and also our children.
So now for Medicare, and these are the touch points we need now to talk about when you're talking about cancer and childhood, it's the need to also bring up that issue of when you hear something, children are encouraged, hear something, say something. When you see something, say something. So
exactly what I am yet to get thinking about. When you're talking to the caregivers and even to the children who are victims, how are you helping them that have not gotten here? Yes, those who are yet to get here. How are you helping them not to end up here or manage being here? Because there are many things that we just assume are normal, yet, as you say, when we now have the push, it's stage 4. Yes.
And okay, thank you. What we are trying to do, and forgive me because we are here just this month, we want people to know that cancer is there, doesn't wait for September. So this should be an all-round thing. Like we are talking about this awareness throughout the year. And how are we doing it? We are not just coming to this TV and talking. Can we really do a lot of maybe outdoors, like reach out to these people, travel all over the country, have our people on the ground everywhere talking about this and that, and educating mothers. And this is something they need to be told right at the very time. Like when you're having your child, be prepared and be told this and this and this is what you need to also to look out for. Let them have this knowledge. Because honestly, out here, there's a lot of myth about cancer also. So can we inform them? Can we do a lot of advocacy, awareness we are talking about, getting them to understand what it is and that it is real. It is not witchcraft. It can happen to you and me. It doesn't choose sex, age, race, nothing, social status, nothing. So more and more awareness throughout the calendar and not just around this time. Yeah.
Yes. So what should the children, be there to tell their parents?
Yes.
Because like I said, a mother will just say, hiyo tu ni kichwa unauma tu, you'll be fine tomorrow. Just take water. Tomorrow again, I'm having a headache. You just played too much. You overslept. You're watching too much TV. When should I now say, please, let's go and see Dr. X? Let's see so and so. When should I take it seriously and not just assume that this is just the kawa complaint? Yeah.
Just go ahead. Okay, like we've said, when we are trying to create this awareness, we're also trying to let the mother learn to listen to this child. Okay? Because if a child comes to you and tells you, I have this headache, and you tell them, it will just go soon. By the way, the kid will just say, it's okay, mom said. But tomorrow you can see that this kid doesn't seem to be improving, because we are not saying that anytime you have a headache, there is a big problem. Sometimes the weather is too hot, like now it's getting hot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But we are saying, can you observe this child today and tomorrow? Do they seem to be, does the situation seem to be persistent? That is when you need to get alarmed. I'm talking about tomorrow. Don't wait for the third day.
The people that you have encountered,
Yes.
what is the story like,
Mm.
when they get to this discovery?
Mm.
From the very first time,
Mm.
there was a hint.
Mm.
How long was that?
Most of them have taken 6 months. Some of them will tell you even a year before they even decided to go to hospital. Because they were saying, in fact, if there is anywhere they went to, and I'm saying this with all due respect, is to the pastor, the closest, we went there for prayer, because I'm very sure somebody has been looking at us with evil eyes. And then from there, now they go to see a witch doctor, because they have prayed, there doesn't seem to be anything. And Carrie, with the next neighbor or an auntie, comes and visits and say, in our family, there's somebody who did 1, 2, 3, 4 things. You need to see. Are they called witch doctors, or I don't know? So they go there. This is now taking quite another 5, 6 months, because the doctor, actually, I'm talking about a client who told me the mother got sick. This is not a child. So they were told to go and see a witch doctor. And they were in Mombasa. So they were told this witch doctor or the whatever is in Busia. How long does it take to come to Busia? So they go and see this command. They get themselves a place to stay. So they come this week. They are told Wikimbili. So Wikimbili, you can go to Mombasa and come back. It went on and on and on. And then eventually the man was telling the girl, the spirits have told me that problem is inside you. So what does it mean? Unaelewa sasa? So the girl was like, really? Then he says that if it is not me, then it has to be your father. Meanwhile, the patient is getting, when we are talking about cancer, these cells can fly in the body. They move very, very fast. So with the children, it's the same thing. So the parent goes to see this church pastor, this witch doctor, Anyway, in short, sometimes it takes 6 months, 1 year before they even now decide to come to see the doctor. By the time they're reaching there, the doctor is like, why did you come early? And that is why when they hear cancer, it is death, because the presentation is late, when the doctors can hardly do anything. So they are put on palliative care immediately. Then they don't last long, unfortunately.
We have 3 minutes. Before we can wrap up this.
Well, just to add to what Ngini has said very correctly, there are also 3 other categories. One, the teacher. From our experiences as Fariji, when we are doing these programs with children and sports, the teacher is a very key cog. The relationship between the teacher and the parent is very important and very useful in trying to learn more about the child. The teacher stays with the child for 40 hours in a week. The mother leaves the child in the morning and the evening. Number 2, their peers. Every child, as a parent and as a guardian, you need to know who are the peers. Best friend yako ni nani? There is a way you ask, hey, how is Fulani nowadays? There is a cross-reference. It's very important. Number 3, consistency in hospital visits. When you consistently visit one hospital and you start visiting just for your home, then even that doctor can say the medical history, when they was 4 years old, they started visiting. And so they also become very key. Ya mwisho, which is key to what we do, is coaches, especially to boys more than girls, because we're trying to do a lot of sports for both, but more boys show up. Coaches, they also seem to know a bit more of the children because they are more informal and relaxed in a sporty environment. So the parent, as a guardian, those key touch point areas of a teacher, a peer, a hospital, and as a coach, they are really key in early diagnosis. Thank you.
True. Guinea, is there hope?
There is hope. There is so much hope. So much hope. All we need is awareness and advocacy. And now this being our Child Cancer Awareness Month, please, wherever you are, sacrifice time for these children if you can. Let us have nice gift packs that we can take to these kids. Can you also do a lot of advocacy and awareness on social media? Let us do that. We are trying to come up with a fund that is going to help a child, at least one child, even if it's not 20. Because we know there are those who start this journey, but give up along the way. Why? Because they can't afford. Either the hospital is very far, they cannot afford medication because it's not free. And then again, we are speaking to the government, please.
It's not free, Guinea. Sorry to just cut you there.
Yes.
It's not free. But if you are the caregiver,
Yes.
taking care of this cancer child,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and you really have to do this.
Yes.
You know, that time you put education and
Yes.
everything else and
Yes.
clothing aside.
On hold, yeah.
Yes, you know. So what hope do you have when you're putting in all your resources and selling your parcels of land? Are you selling them with hope that we are going to recover? Or let me just do this, though I know I'll bury you, you know, so that people don't say, I did nothing.
You know, when we are talking to people about, when we are giving them emotional support, we consider those factors. Because if, for example, you had a piece of land and you didn't sell, because you're feeling like this person might die tomorrow. Who knows? You could even die today before this cancer person dies. When it comes to death, you never know. So what we're helping you to deal with is the guilt that might come after that. I wish I did this. Maybe things would have gone different. Okay, that is what we also take care of. So anyway, let us support those children. Those clothes that you don't use now or we are using, please, you can even go to a shop and buy some new clothes that we take to this hospital, please, to support the caregivers. We shall really, really, really appreciate. Let's talk. Tell your story. And my story is, I'm also a breast cancer survivor and I'm doing 16 years. 2005 to now is how many years? Hesabu linishinda shule. So I'm doing that, and that is the more reason why I want to work with the children. Because for all adults, there's so much. He's talking about I don't know what, those things. But this time I want to work with kids and their caregivers. My social, whatever you'll get, because we shall be communicating more with Betty and you shall reach me.
Congratulations.
Kongoi.
You survived.
I am a victor.
You're a victor.
Yes.
Yes, you're not a victim.
A survivor,
No.
a champion.
You're a victor. Yes,
Champion.
when you have
Yes.
overcome, you're a victor.
Yes.
You've done 16 years now.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, thank God for you. Well, viewer, that has been a very nice closing. We have been talking to someone who actually survived and overcame, and today is a victor. No wonder the passion to help the children also get over and come out of this. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Betty. I've been your host. See you next time.